Hello everyone, and welcome to that other video I was promising to make. So, here we have the two Intel-based test bench motherboards. This is the old one, the Z370 Aorus Gaming 5 from Gigabyte, and this is the new one, the Z390 Gaming Pro Carbon from MSI. So, the reason why I made the switch to this motherboard is basically because the Gigabyte board, among other issues, had its PCI Express slots drop out lanes or drop out entirely. So it wouldn't detect anything anymore, like you look into Device Manager, it's not there. And it became so bad that I decided to just get a new motherboard that still has SLI and like a good enough VRM to power my 8700K. This board is worse in some ways. It doesn't have a postcode, it just has debug LEDs over here. The rear I/O is a lot worse than the Gigabyte one. I'm losing Wi-Fi and two USB Type-A ports. But it doesn't really matter that much. The thing that I care about is that the bloody PCI Express slots work. That's also the main reason why I went for an MSI board, not another Gigabyte. Like, basically I could have looked for like a Z390 Master or something, which would have had a much better VRM. Also SLI and a postcode, and better rear I/O. But it's just sort of just like, I've had so many Gigabyte boards, and like, yeah, I have a B550 Master in my daily, which is a fine board. I've had this, and I've had an X370 Gaming 7. This one and the X370 had the PCI Express slot issue. So it's not like that it's a defect from this board specifically. I suspect it's more of a design issue or maybe a BIOS issue, because two Gigabyte boards from around the same time that actually was one Intel, one AMD had the same issue, so the connection is it's Gigabyte and from that era. The newer Gigabyte boards are completely fine, they don't have this issue, at least my B550 Master doesn't, so don't panic, the boards are fine. So I went for an MSI one, because as far as I know they don't have this issue. And this one also should have better memory support, because this is on a daisy chain, whereas this is on a T topology. And also from around that time the MSI BIOS should be better. Like, this is on the old Gigabyte BIOS. Around the when X570 came out, Gigabyte made a new BIOS that's really, really good, and I really like that new BIOS, but this is on the old one. And while people complain about the layout, I find the layout is fine. It's just that the BIOS has issues. It doesn't work properly, basically. So I went with the new motherboard, and yeah, so this is just to showing it. What I actually wanted to do is take apart the VRM heatsink assembly for this board, because I did test it now. Like, well, okay, I booted it into the BIOS, and that's basically it. Let's actually take the RAM out for this. But yeah, I verified that it works, because I had a Z390 Master. That didn't work. That one was so broken, the postcode didn't even light up. Thankfully, that person took the board back and refunded me. So yeah, but this one, like, it got into the BIOS, and I assume the rest works as well then. Because I want to look at the VRM here, because I actually don't know what VRM we will find under this heatsink. Doesn't look all that impressive. Like, there's no heat pipe in there. The Gigabyte one had a heat pipe. However, the Gigabyte board also had a very, very bad VRM that absolutely needed that heat pipe. Oh, these screws are so loose, I assume someone took this apart before. Okay. Hope the thermal pads are okay. So people sometimes break the thermal pads when they take these heat sinks apart, and I don't really trust people with that. Not even myself, but yeah. Let's also take the I/O cover off. But yeah, these screws are harder to take out. Oh, these are also different screws, okay. Yeah, because they screw into plastic. Nothing has fallen off the board for now, so I guess the thermal pads are pretty strong. Oh yeah, this has like the integrated I/O shield thing. How do I get that off? Oop. There's the heatsink off. Oh my god. Oh. I was hoping for a better VRM than this. I was hoping for 2C power stages. But, well. That is still 3/4 of the gigabyte VRM already. Okay. Yeah, so this looks like a 5+1 phase? I can't see the controller, not with the I/O shield still on it. Oh, there's screws here. Okay. Yeah, probably should have looked at that. Yeah, this VRM actually looks kind of similar to the old one, which... I mean, it's not good. By no means is it good, but it's okay. For an 8700K at least. The 9900K on the gigabyte VRM, I would be concerned. Okay, that's the RGB off. And that's the integrated I/O shield. Oh yeah, so there's a slot for a Wi-Fi module here. Yeah, like there's probably a Wi-Fi version of this board that comes with the Wi-Fi card. Sadly, my Gigabyte board doesn't have a Wi-Fi card, otherwise I would have tested if I can just put one in here. Okay, what controller do we have? It looks like a UPI one. That's a UP9521P. Okay. And then for the VRM. So, are those fake phases or are those real phases? Because I have a feeling those are fake phases. Yeah, those are fake phases. See how the current sense is like shorted together for every 2 inductors? And there's only a driver chip for every 2 inductors here? Yeah, those are fake phases. Except for the last one. Oh, that's only one phase. That's not a teamed one. Okay. Yeah, so this is a probably 5+1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a +1 for the iGPU. Well, that's one more phase than the Gigabyte had. What MOSFETs do we have here? Oh no. These might be the exact same MOSFETs. Can we... So these are definitely on semiconductor ones. Can't really see very well. So the high sides are 4C029 and the low side FETs, I can't actually read that. Oh, 4C024 low sides. You might be able to see that. Yeah. Okay, those are not the exact same MOSFETs, but I think I remember seeing at least one of these MOSFETs, and they are not particularly great. Like the Gaming 5 had 4C10Ns and 4C06Ns, which is bottom of the barrel. I don't think it goes anything worse than that. These are probably slightly better versions of those same MOSFETs. But we do get one more phase worth of them. So instead of 4, we now have 5 phases. Which is probably the 9900K compatibility that Z390 has to have. So this VRM is by no means exceptional. The heatsink looks... Well, there's not a whole lot of surface area here. But they have a pretty even split between the 2 heatsinks. Yeah, so Yeah, those heat sinkers, the VRM is probably gonna run at the same temperatures that the Gigabyte one did, which that was like 87 degrees. It's fine. It's just, it could be better. We could... Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's fine for the 8700K. It can probably barely power a 9900K, though at high voltages it's gonna be very borderline. Yeah, I mean, this is still an upgrade over the old one. I just really hope to see like at least 50 amp DR buses. But no. This is actually pretty similar to the... Well, I think this is straight up the same VRM that they used on the Z390 Carbon. And this is also very similar to what they used on the X370 and X470 Gaming Plus. There was also a Carbon for X470, but I don't know about that board. But the Gaming Plus had this, but as a 4-phase, not a 5. So, yeah. I am slightly disappointed, but it's still better than the old one, and the old one was fine. I was able to get this 8700K to 5.2 gigahertz on the old one. So, yeah, and this one has, like, I looked in the BIOS briefly. This has VRM switching frequency settings, which might overheat this, but yeah, so it having switching frequency settings means it probably also has a bunch of other nice features, like a lot more LOC settings than the Gigabyte one. Like the Gigabyte one had basically normal, which is trash, auto, which is just normal, and then 3 settings, which were like medium, high, and turbo. And I always used the highest one, because even that was still dropping like 10, 20 millivolts. But yeah, this should have like proper LOC stuff. And yeah. So I'll be reassembling the thing, putting it back together, and yeah, I'll be setting it up properly. And yeah, I'll validate that the PCI Express slots work properly. I'll probably validate the memory overclock I have on my RAM. Maybe try to push it a bit further. And yeah, so thermal pads look fine. So those can just go back on. I just need to hit the holes right. But yeah, so I hope that there's no major things wrong with this board. I don't know how long I'm gonna be having this. This will probably be the last Coffee Lake board that I buy. For this test bench at least. Maybe in like 5 years or something I'm just gonna take myself out in Coffee Lake CPUs. But for as long as this will be my main test bench, this will probably be the last board I buy, unless there's something wrong with it and I need to get rid of it. But yeah, so like I said that before in other videos, I have a long-term plan to get an entirely new test bench, but that costs money and I don't have a lot of money. So I'll make do with what I can, which includes like buying these old boards, which are not that great, but I mean, my bar is so low that you're gonna clear it if your board just works. That's not a high bar to clear. Sadly, the Gigabyte one doesn't clear it anymore. Like I used to be okay with that board's jankiness, but not anymore because it got worse. It's probably my fault, because when I talked about that before, I was doing dry ice overclocking on the board. I didn't insulate it properly, and I had corrosion form. in basically this entire area of the board. Even like it was plasti dipped, but somehow a lot of fluid got under the plasti dip and started corroding stuff, and I didn't notice for like a week after. So yeah, it got pretty bad. And that's probably why the PCI Express slots started acting up even more than before. Because there's PCI Express switches here as well. Like on the other board, there's also PCI Express switches in that same area. And of course, those were right in the middle of the corroded section. Is that cable in? I assume it is, because it doesn't go in any further. Okay. So we're gonna screw the cover in first and then the I/O shield. So yeah, that's probably on me for starting the decline, which might invalidate some of the complaints I raised about the board, but it's not like it didn't do it before, it just got worse. It totally did the PCI Express dropout thing before. And all the other issues it had, it did also before. The only thing that I caused is probably making the PCI Express slot drop out worse. Why doesn't that line up? Come on. So yeah, as I was saying that in the last video, I'm probably gonna start thinking about setting up a Patreon for the channel, because I was approached about that before by viewers. Like, some people asked me if I have a Patreon, if they can donate. And I never set one up. I think now it would be a good time, because yeah, the Patreon money would go like just making the channel pay for itself, basically, because this is very expensive, having this hobby. So yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna make a dedicated video about Patreon if I set one up. Like, I don't expect it to that many people to go into it, but if I can have some passive income for the channel, then that would be nice. Yeah. Anyway, I think that would be it for the video. Like, we've looked at the VRM. It's... I mean, it's fine. It's nothing special. It's probably, like... Yeah, it's not great. It will power my 8700K. Putting a 9900K in this thing would probably be a bit... what's the word? Very brave. But yeah, so it's okay. Like, it's not like I was expecting this thing to have like 60 amp smart power stages. Though having like the 50 amp DR MOSFETs would have been nice, but you can't have everything. At least we got a VRM that's better than the last one. That's what I'm concentrating about. The VRM heatsink is not as good as the last one, because like the Gigabyte heatsink doesn't look like it has a lot of surface area, but it actually has, like, the heatsinks are pretty good, like, from the shape they have, and they have a heat pipe. These ones are just like metal blobs with like basically no surface area. So I'm probably expecting this VRM to also be in like the high 80s when it comes to temperature, which is completely fine. These VRMs can take like 125 degrees without issue. So yeah. it's fine. And with that, I will be ending the video. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Yeah, this is, believe it or not, for my standards, this is a short video. So, yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, goodbye.